Yo, 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 welcome back to the Further Your Lifestyle podcast, conversations on lifestyle, passions, and hustles. My name's Chris Furlong, I'm your host, and I'm super excited to be back here having the conversation with you. Episode 49, it's a big milestone, we're so close to 50, so I appreciate you being here, and it's an exciting journey to get here so far. Now today, I have the absolute pleasure to invite back Ethan Rooshocks, who was here about a year ago or so. Now, Ethan, he's an accountant, he's got his own business, and he's doing some pretty amazing things. In the last year, he's grown his business, doubled his YouTube, and also he's just about to launch an NFT project, and he also got married. So it's been a big year of different things, and the reason why I wanted to have him back was to talk about the things that he's doing or that he enjoys doing that enables him to further his life. And in this case, his lifestyle too. So we're going to dive into that today. We also touch on 2 points which he wish he started earlier. And I think this is super important for anyone that's listening, is that there is things that we wish we all started earlier, and to hear it from his perspective of why, and if maybe there's an opportunity for you to start now and how you could get ahead too. So let's dive straight into it. Appreciate you being here. Enjoy the show. Welcome, Ethan. Welcome back to the Further Your Lifestyle podcast, mate. It's so good to have you back here for a second time. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks for having me again. It's really exciting to be back. I love doing it the first time, and I've been able to meet some of the other guests and people like that from doing the first one. So I'm so excited to be back again. And I've been listening. I only listened to one of the episodes yesterday. So yeah, I love the podcast and really excited to be a guest on it again.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, you're totally welcome. And like, it's not a year, but we're close to a year since we probably first connected, or at least when I was, following you on YouTube and whatnot. And since then, like, I mean, in general, the world's been through a roller coaster of a ride of just everything that's been going on. And I know for you, you've had like a crazy big year of so many different things, with your business growing and, you getting on the YouTube and growing on that. And you've got married and now you're working on an NFT project. There's quite a lot there. And I know we're going to be touching on some different things around, how you're trying to further your own lifestyle and things like that. But I really do want to, just touch on and catch up on you for anyone that, has listened to the first episode. And if they haven't, I really encourage you to go check out the first episode with Ethan. But, let's do a catch up. So what's been happening in the last year, man?
Yeah, it's probably crazy when you put it all like that. I think as we go along in our lives, we don't necessarily, and I know you've talked about it before on the podcast, you don't always look back at where you were 12 months ago. You kind of just, you're so caught up in the moment and you don't really realize what's happened in the last 12 months, for instance. So yeah, it's been, I haven't realized it as it's going, but it probably has been pretty hectic. So my business grew dramatically in 2021. So that was obviously a good thing. I started the year really unsure of how to continue to get more clients. And I quickly realized that the best way to do it is to try and put out as much content and value to people and build that trust up. And obviously I just started YouTube in late 2020, but I quickly realized that the more content, the more you help people for nothing. Like, it's your own time and you're putting that in. It doesn't matter. And I literally just got an email 2 minutes before we jumped on this call from someone saying he subscribed to me for 6 months on YouTube and is now reaching out to want to know about becoming a client.
That's awesome.
So it's a long-term game, and that first 6 months of YouTube, you don't really get much. So yeah, a lot of focus has been obviously trying to get out as much content. I was aiming for 2 videos a week and I end up with about 90 videos. So I was pretty close for that, getting close to that. And then obviously that translated into the business and the business growing. And then my personal life has been busy, as I said, got married in January. So January was a bit of a time off for me. It's time to kind of stop and reflect. But now it's, getting back into the busyness and trying to launch an NFT project. So that's been a lot of my focus probably since mid-November. And so much time has gone into that. I'd be well over 100 hours of time dedicated on that project. So that will hopefully be happening in March. And it's all been about educating myself and learning on different areas. And I feel like I've learnt more in the last 12 months than I ever had in a year period in my life before.
Wow. And look, I mean, you've said it right there. It's kind of like deep diving and actually putting your hands into it and getting dirty is the best way to learn, right? And a lot of the time, you can go to university, you can do a course, but doing your own, I guess, your own learning or own education of, whether it's 100 hours, 50 hours, and actually just getting into it, getting your hands dirty. Like if people were starting to code, sometimes just watching people doing it or reading about it, that's overwhelming. It's scary. It looks cool. And you go to do it and you're like, I can't do this. But of course, because they've got all these fundamentals and foundations that they've had over years. But if if you go spend 50 hours starting from the bare bones, all of a sudden things start to click, right? And it's the same with NFTs. It's the same with me with reselling, even doing this podcast. Like, it gets easier as you go because you get all the fluff out of the way and you can progress on. So to keep you honest then, and we don't have to touch on it very detailed, for those that don't know, and I have touched on it on the podcast before, but what's an NFT?
So an NFT is a non-fungible token. That probably doesn't really give much away, because if someone told me that without knowing, I'd go, well, what does that actually mean? But the biggest or easiest way for me to describe it would be it's a digital asset, but it's verified by the blockchain, which again, you don't need to go into that detail, but you think of any kind of digital collectible or digital asset, and you've got that verification purposes.
Yeah.
And that can be used for a range of different things. So for me, I'm using it as a part of business services and stuff that I can verify and go, yes, you own this, therefore you get X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And I can expand on that in the future. So in 6 months' time, I can go, well, everyone that holds token A, I'm going to go fly over there and meet up with them and have a meeting with them and talk business. And there's nothing stopping me from doing that. And I can verify. But at the same time, if that person that holds token A goes, I don't want this anymore, they can just go and sell that to someone else.
Yeah.
So NFTs have the ability for people to move assets when they don't want them. So think of gaming, think of Pokemon cards, and then it can be things like, imagine your will is held by an NFT.
Wow.
And when you pass away, it's there, it's coded to go, well, this is who is going to get the assets. There's no arguments over it because it's all there. We're not going, oh, well, is that the current will that's held with lawyer A, or is it that one there? We know that that's the verifier. We know it's there. And it's coded in that goes, oh, it automatically, once someone maybe hits, yep, go ahead on chain, and it distributes it.
Yeah,
so
that's interesting idea, actually.
The opportunities are endless with it. Now, there's a lot of hype over this, and there's going to be a lot of people that lose money, but the underlying technology is actually really cool.
Yeah, and I think that's great, right? And I think the key thing here is that it's early days for it. I mean, I've touched on with Taylor one of the previous episodes, and there's so much hype, and I guess so many people dabbling in it, right? And you're building your own NFT project, which we'll touch on in a second. But I think it's just really important for people to understand that it is early days. It's kind of like when the internet first came out. I mean, it's been around for years and years, but there's all this uncertainty, but also this excitement, and everyone's hyped, and everyone just wants to be part of it, right? And I think it takes a little bit for it to kind of like settle down, get its groove, or its way of flow into society, because you'll soon find who are the big players, who are the people that are committed versus who are the people just here to make money, and who are the people that are actually not that serious about it. And it's like with any trends or anything that pops up, once it dies down, you actually still realize who are the people that are in this for the long game and not just here for a quick buck. And I think that's important to understand when you are, if you go do research on this yourself, that think of it long term, and don't try and get so stuck up on the short term, because otherwise, yeah, you might lose some money, because
definitely
it can be a bit tricky. Look, I do want to say, yeah, congratulations on getting married, mate. And I know that was another big milestone for the well, you had been leading up to it, and you had to do a lot of changing at the last minute, but that's a great milestone. And also with just seeing the progression of you building your content on YouTube. And obviously I don't see the day-to-day of your business, but I can see that representation on your YouTube channel. And I think it's really good, as you said, to reflect back and see how far you've come. And sometimes we forget to kind of look back and see, well, actually I've done a lot, or I chipped away, or as you said, you did like 90 videos or so. And like that's a lot of effort, right? And it just goes to show that when you put things in place, or set goals or set visions and dreams, that as long as you're working towards that one step at a time, that these things are more than capable to achieve. So let's dive back into the NFT project. You can kind of pitch what you're trying to do there, and then we'll jump into the full meat of the podcast.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so my NFT project is called Rooshocks. So you can find it on all the social medias. Discord is where I'm trying to learn. I've had to learn Discord. Discord is where so many people are discussing, or the communities are growing regarding the NFT projects. Discord and Twitter, two areas I hadn't really used. I was familiar with YouTube and Instagram. So it's been a learning curve. But the aim of the project, my aim behind it, is to show how small businesses or creatives or YouTubers or whatever you want to call yourself could use an NFT project that actually provides value for their audience as well as themselves, obviously. I'm obviously dedicating a lot of time for it, so it's got to make sense for me. But the forefront is to go, well, what can I provide that's valuable to my audience? And obviously, I do my YouTube videos, but I'm kind of limited there. It's like you do a video and it's to a broad audience, and I can try and interact in the comments and
Yeah.
stuff, but maybe it doesn't allow me that one-on-one connections. And the NFT project is built around, well, what services do I offer? And now, whether that's tax-related services of obviously tax returns or tax planning sessions, but then I also do business strategy sessions. So, discussing with business owners on where they're at, how they could grow their business. I've got gifts and stuff, but I've got ideas of how I want to be able to reward holders that own one of the characters and give them an annual gift, or have networking groups. So the possibilities are endless. And the utility that comes with the initial sale, I can add to that at any time.
Yeah.
So the first 10 token holders, I may go, well, they still hold that in 5 years' time. Thank you for supporting me for 5 years. Let's go do this.
Yeah.
That's what I really like about the idea is verifying who is actually supporting me. And it's not to say that there's other people that aren't supporting me. You don't have to be a token holder to show your support. True. But it just gives another option, no different to a membership does, or a subscription does, or a mentor group, all those different ways, but it's just a way to verify it. So I've drawn all the artwork myself, and I'm definitely not an artist. So that's been a real old challenge.
But they must be getting easier.
It definitely is. I've got a process now, and I know how to do it. But when I first loaded up Photoshop, it was like, oh, what have I got myself into? So I wanted to make authentic. It's not necessarily about the artwork. I think some of them are funny or they're cool. So, but and then these characters are based on, there's different sections, but I won't go into too much detail, but I've got characters that are based on things I like. So I've got the accountant, I've got objects like the soccer ball, and then I've got some of them based on guests like yourself. So we've got the flipper. So it's been a really cool learning, and the learning experience has been worth it just in that. If I didn't sell a single one, then I've learnt so much, which has been really valuable.
Yeah, no, that's really exciting, man. And I guess to play back for those in case they still haven't kind of figured it out yet, but think of it like kind of like a country club VIP or a loyalty program, in the sense that, you sign up as a member, and, the longer you're a member, the more access you get, or some of the different perks you get opportunity to, or, it's like sometimes if you're a regular customer to something, when you walk in the door, you're greeted with, maybe you're getting free drinks for the week, or whatever it is. And it's the same mentality, but it's in the digital space. And obviously, Ethan gets to control what he can put to it, whether it's, people that own this membership for a certain amount of time. Maybe one day you can say they'll just have unlimited tax returns or something, but at the start it's just limited to 1 or 2 or 3. And it really is the world is your oyster kind of vibe when it comes to it, because as you said, you get to choose, and you can change it later to make it more beneficial for those that have stuck around for the long term, but also just, spice it up. And as you learn and see how that space evolves, how you can help evolve it too. So, I mean, and not to put you on the spot, but I know you have a launch close coming up. When can we expect to see something? And of course, all this will be in the show notes, folks, the website, all the details. If it's not there now, it'll be there when it goes live. But, his Twitter and Discord and things like that. But when can we expect to see something like this?
Yeah, so I'm aiming for a launch mid to late March, I'm thinking. March has always been the goal. There's some external factors that are outside of my control, people that are helping and stuff. So I am time limited on obviously those things. But the aim is to launch in mid to late March. And then the aim is to grow this for 10 plus years. It's not something that I'm gonna abandon after a month. And that was my really big thing, is that I want to show to people I am committed to things. And I've done that through YouTube. 18 months journey on YouTube now of showing that I'm showing up every week, trying to put out more content, trying to help more people. So I'm not just abandoning this project. It has my face to it, which was something that was really important to me to go, this is me. So it's my reputation on the line, and therefore there is something for me to lose. Therefore, there is the reason for me to continuously support those that support me.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. And I love, when you said 10 years, it makes me smile, because I like to think, where are we going to be in 10 years? And I hope, we can be having another conversation like this. It's just weird to think, because 10 years goes really quick. Right now, it feels like a while away, but it will go quick. And to be able to reflect back on those moments and that journey in between is going to be a pretty amazing experience. I'm excited. I'm excited for you. And you're the type of person that I can stand behind and think, you've got the right intent here, whether it flops or whether it, skyrockets at the start, or maybe it never does, or maybe it does. That's not the point. The point is that you're doing it with the right intent, and regardless of if it goes big or not, there's going to be plenty of value there for the small amount of people that get involved or the large amount of people that get involved. So kudos, dude.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something
yeah,
I just quickly want to touch on. That's what I really like about the idea, is that if 3 people buy them and they drop $400 or $500 or whatever, I can make sure that those people will get their values worth no
yeah,
matter what. So it's not a project that's reliant on selling all 1,200 pieces. If I sell 12, then those 12 people can at least walk away and go that they haven't been screwed over or anything like that. They haven't had a rug pulled from underneath them. They know
yeah,
that, oh, I got value for my money, and that's really important to me. It's not to I'm not saying these are going to go up dramatically in value and you're going to be able to resell them the next week for more. It's not necessarily about that. Now, if
yeah.
that happened, great. I'd love for all of my collectors to grow their wealth. That would be ideal. But the risk, I'm taking that risk away, putting all the risk on myself, and therefore there's no risk on my community.
And I think it's great to have the mindset of looking long term for yourself anyway, like setting that expectation. And it's like with anyone getting into this space, because it's like with anything. It's like starting a YouTube channel. People see other people, oh yeah, they put a video out, they went viral, and now they're making 10 grand a month or something. And look, it happens. It has happened. I know people it's happened to, but majority of people it doesn't. And you start and then you don't see what you're seeing everyone else getting, and you think, what's going on? Am I crap? Am I not good enough? But that's not the reality of it, right? It's just that no, it's sometimes certain things just happen that way. It's like people that win the lottery, right? Where they do anything better than you. I mean, they purchase the lottery ticket, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. So I think going into the understanding with that expectation from your side, and helping people understand that from people that are going to consume it, is very key, and it's a smart way of thinking.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's good. So let's dive into the meat of this podcast. And really, I mean, I know when we caught up, I wanted to really focus on niching down on ways that you are furthering your lifestyle. And I know we briefly touched on this last time when we did your first interview, and we got to know who you are, what you're about, and some of the things that you're doing. But I think it's important to always hear it from different people of what works for them, whether it's to do with exercising, whether it's to do with investing, content consumption. And I know we've picked out a few already, but hearing it from different people always brings better perspective, because sometimes someone might hear it from me and they think, it's not relevant, but they hear it from you and it's like, actually that's got a different spin, or they might relate to you in a different circumstance. So I want to dive into that. And I know we went through and we picked out a whole different things, and today we'll be touching on exercising, relationships, investing, and content consumption. So I'd love to hear from you. How have these areas, and you can break it down in whatever order you want, how have you leveraged those, or how have you furthered your life from using these different areas in your life?
Yeah, I think any of these topics are really cool, and I think you've got a really good point there, that the way I may say it may resonate with someone and it may not with others, and what you say obviously may not. And I think we also lean towards on some of these areas that, and obviously I'll talk about investing and stuff, but I suppose we lean towards what someone talks about a lot. So when it comes to something like, I'll start with exercising, and someone like, I only spoke to you the other day asking you questions on your YouTube channel about running, because I go, well, you might not be a personal trainer, or you're not a marathon runner that runs in the Olympics, but I know you've done these things somewhat level more than what I have. So I go, well, I'll trust him. He's done it. And therefore I'll just get some advice from him. And it might be a bit from you and a bit from that. So exercising is one that I'm trying to further my lifestyle with, because I understand how important it is. And I've always loved sport and things like that. So I really understand, well, that is important to mental health, to physical health, and just breaking up your day a bit. So I'm trying to put a bit of a routine in place, and I started running in probably late September, and just trying to use that exercise, because I've had such a stop-start relationship with exercise. All through my childhood, I played sport non-stop. That's all I ever did.
Okay.
And it got to finish, I think year 12, was like, I'm busy. I don't have time for sport. You get into other life things that are happening in your early 20s, and you're like, that'll happen. I'll get back into it. And then I eventually did get back into sport in probably about 22, 23. And I had injuries. And I'd never had injuries in my whole life. And it was like, so that put me off again. And it was like another couple of years off. And then I got back into it a couple of years ago, and then had injuries again. It was just like the frustration of not being able to consistently exercise. And I've been in and out of gyms and all those kind of things. So in the last few months, I've gone, okay, well, I want to start running, because that's something that I'm in control of. It's, I suppose, a lower risk. It's not a contact sport. It's just me. There's definitely injuries, and I've already had troubles with that. but it's something I can focus on, and I can set a schedule, and I can set goals, and they're self-controlled goals that I can go, well, I want to run 5Ks, 10Ks, or
Yeah.
do I want to run to a time limit? I really like those ideas because I'm in control of them. I can track them. I love tracking things.
Yeah.
But it's stuff that I can go, well, I'm going to build up to this. I don't have to do a marathon tomorrow, but maybe I want to do that in 5 years' time, and
Yeah.
it's a 5-year journey. So I really like that idea, but I think exercise is really key for physical health, mental health, and just a separation of your day, whether you do it in the morning or whether you do it in the afternoon or at night. It's something that can break up other parts of your life.
100%. And what time of the day do you usually tend to run or exercise?
Well, that's where I'm still trying to work that one out. So the routine isn't there yet. It just depends. Summertime's hard because I've been trying to go in the mornings, and I get up in the morning and I feel just exhausted. Or sometimes that first run,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I can't do it. So then I'm like, try for mid-afternoon, but that doesn't work when it's a 35-degree day because that's the
Yeah.
hottest part of the day at 3-4 o'clock. So it's just trying to work out a routine. I'm still learning what works for my body and what works best, and probably mixing that up still a bit, and hopefully I will get more of a routine. But I obviously stopped a bit over Christmas time and being away, so trying to get back into that routine and go, look, what works for me, because what works for me may not work for someone else.
Yeah, that's true. And you mentioned that you're starting to get into the running, but like other than running, what exercises would you normally lean towards?
Yeah, so I suppose I've always played sport, so that's
Yeah.
obviously been the one that's counteracted that kind of stuff. So soccer is probably the main thing, and I'm hoping to get back into that again this year. So that obviously provides that. I have been in and out of gyms probably for 5 years now. So I'll
Yeah,
go to the
okay.
gym for 3 months and then I'll stop. And I would like to be going more at the moment, but we've obviously just had all these other world issues that have been going on, and gyms have been
Yeah.
stop start. So that's my main things, is that I'd love to do more social sport, but it's just trying to find the time. Like I
Yeah,
used to
okay.
play tennis, and I love I played twilight netball at one stage,
Wow.
or
Okay.
I've got a friend that plays dodgeball, and I'd love to get into those kind of things. It's just like those social aspects of sport that I
Yeah.
think is so important that we don't always get. Especially, I work from home, so I'm not seeing people all the time. So I do love the social aspects of sport, or even sharing of an individual sport like running. But you can
Yeah.
have a community around there where you discuss what you're doing. So that's one of the really
Yeah.
important things I think with sport and exercise, is the social aspect of, well, just to talk to other people that are doing something
That's
similar.
true. And no, I totally agree. And, being a big runner myself, like the community side, like especially during lockdown. I mean, I love running by myself. Like I love it. And then usually I would run with Carla, my partner, and that's great. But everyone's to their own. Some people don't like talking when they're running, or people just like to, get in their own zone. But when it comes to like running events, like I've got a race event this weekend, and it's down near Torquay and along the surf coast and things like that. So it's really exciting for that point. But then you're going to be running with other people. It's not like you're running and chatting with them, but just coming
Yeah.
together, all
Yeah.
experiencing, encouraging. You've got people cheerleading for you, and it's just a bit of an excitement. And I remember doing that after lockdown, and just how like how much you realize you've missed it. And I can totally understand how doing some of these other social sports, whether it's basketball, tennis, and all those, how they can be so important for your life, or to further your life, right? Because that might be your key social part of your week or your day, or however it may be. And whereas other people get their inputs and that social connection through other means. But I can totally see how you've kind of got two elements of that exercising. Of it's not just there to keep you healthy and keep you fit and keep you sane, but it's also keeping you connected. It's keeping you interacting with other people, and that you are just not isolated in your own own world. So okay, now that's really, really good. And I think for anyone that's getting into exercising, is like you kind of said, is like set things that you're in control of, right? Obviously a lot of people had dreams and ambitions when we did go through a lockdown period, and you weren't able to go to the gym and things like that. But it doesn't mean you can't exercise or you can't do those things. And as you said, it's hard to actually find those routines. Like for me, running, I love to go out and run, but I should be doing this cross training, doing the weights and doing the strength training and that stuff. Like it's hard work. I hate doing it because I just don't enjoy it. Right. But that's just as important. That's part of the running exercising that I have to do. So I'm doing a lot more yoga because that helps complement it. But I think when you sometimes when you get into this, and maybe a light run is fine, but if you're starting to do it and up it, you've got to realize there's more commitments and more I guess expectations that come with it. as you would know, when it comes to an injury, the amount of work you have to do to get back on get back on path, right? Whether it's
Yeah.
doing these certain stretches, or you can't do that, or and it's frustrating, but I think it's a great parallel for life, because you'll make stuff ups, you make mistakes, and then you have to adjust. You have to maybe take 5 steps back before you can move forward again and readjust and realign. And sometimes when you look at it from that perspective, you can start to realize, okay, we're all actually going through this. It's not the end of the world. We just got to keep pressing on.
Yeah. And I think exercise, one thing that I love about it is that, especially if you do it in the morning, there's no better feeling knowing that you've smashed that goal first thing in the morning.
It sets you up for a win.
Like, I do it sometimes on the weekend, and it's do it on a Saturday morning. You just feel so great for the rest of the day, whether it's a gym session or whether it's a run. You're just like, yep, I've done my exercise for the day. How good does that feel?
Love it. That's great, man. And I agree. I mean, I'm a morning runner, and I love it. You get out and you get it done, and then I feel like I've conquered the day. And then even if the rest of the day I don't get everything done, it's like, well, I might have done 10K this morning. So it's like, and it's just a booster, right? And I think some people don't like the morning. They'll like to run after work or clear their head and things like that, which is completely fine. But I think a lot of this then helps cross over, right? You mentioned that it does play, helps with breaking up the day or clears their head. Do you find, and probably the next one that we'll touch on is, you mentioned around relationships. Do you find, and then we can dive into the broader topic, but do you find that helps with your own relationships? Maybe not necessarily the social aspect, but whether it's with your wife or just how you're interacting with people, that exercising helps. I guess.
Yeah, I think it does. I think exercising, it has the health benefits that give you confidence, and I think confidence is key in relationships. That people that feel great about themselves portray that to other people, and they become better people to be around, and therefore your relationships bloom. And
yeah,
if you're exercising and you feel, whether it's a better body image thing or whether it's just fitter and stuff like that, and you're in that positive mindset, when you go and you spend time with people that are important to me, you can really radiate that, and someone that's feeling good about themselves, and exercise is really a key one. So I think it sounds crazy, but yeah, it can really give you the confidence to ensure your relationships maintain a positivity to them.
Yeah. Okay. And then, yeah, let's talk about relationships in general then. So, you've said that, relationships have helped you further your life, or how are you leveraging those in your life to help grow yourself?
Yeah, I think relationships are really important. It doesn't matter if you have 3 good relationships or 50 good relationships.
Yep.
You've got to have relationships with people. We are people. We need other people in our lives. And I love what I do with my business stuff and the YouTube stuff, and I can get caught up in that. And I've found the last week, it gets to like 7:30 at night. I'm like, I can't wait to go to bed so I can get up and start the next day and get into things. Like, that's how much I'm loving doing things. But it's so important to have those relationships outside of that. So I'm a single man team. My wife has helped me in the past with admin and stuff when I do get busy. But in general, day to day, it's just me.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's really important for me to have relationships outside of that, because they're not there. I obviously have clients, but that's a different type of relationship. But I've come from previous teams where was lucky enough that I was in teams where I really got along well with. I'm lifelong friends with a lot of those people and still catch up with them regularly. So that's important to me. But I think it's really important to have positive relationships, and especially for me, it's mainly family. I don't have a huge friend group. And obviously it starts at home with your partner, your wife, whatever it is. But that's really important for me, because that's someone to bounce ideas off of, but at the same time talk about things that are completely unrelated to what I'm doing on a daily basis. So it's so important to have that separation from what you do. So it's great when you've got family or friends or partners that are involved in what you're doing or interested. So I talk to my mum quite a lot, talk to my brother about business and those kind of things. But it's also equally important to have times when you don't talk about your work and you don't talk about some of those hobbies. You have different people to talk to about different things. So relationships vary, and I have different people in my life that I talk to different things about, and that either keeps me motivated to those things or separates me from them when I need to.
Yeah. And I think that's a key part that I've just taken away from that, is making sure you do have those different people in your life, because I mean, you're going to have the people that are going to cheerlead you regardless, whether it's your parents or your partner or whoever. And that's great. That's what you need, someone there to stand behind you and support you regardless. But sometimes when it comes to feedback, or if you're doing something and maybe they're not in that space or in that same, environment, of course they're going to be like, yeah, it's good, good work, keep it up. But that's not the support you need. You need the support of like, okay, where am I doing wrong, or how do I change it
Yeah.
up? And, getting that constructive criticism, because it's not about that, people are saying that because, you suck. They're saying it because they want to help you grow. And unfortunately, sometimes, you can get stuck. And I know Gary Vee talks about this all the time is, if your mum's rooting for you, that's great. But, maybe have less phone calls with her and get a phone call from someone that can come in and look at your video or look at your whatever it is and give you some real feedback of like, okay, this is good, intense, right? The flow is good, but could probably change this, or maybe next time try doing that. And that way you can start to take that 1% further. And I think that applies across all areas of life, because, the people you would interact with, if you were playing tennis, you're going to have different conversations. You're going to be talking about the tennis game or how you're growing. If you're people in your business network, you're talking about that, people in your personal, and you're going to be growing and changing in different ways. And even like us connecting, right? When we first connected, we didn't really know anything about each other. We probably never chatted, and then we had you on the pod. But then over the year, like, the amount of time we're interacting on a daily, if not weekly basis has been like, exponential, right? And it's because we're connecting on different things or same interests or areas that we're both trying to grow in. And that's super exciting, because you can see literally in the last year of how important that, connecting with someone, growing with someone, and helping someone else or getting help from someone else can really, I guess, rocket you into where you need to be.
Yeah. And I think the other one I probably didn't touch on is the relationship with yourself. You need to have that positive self-talk. And so for me, I know that for my business and for my YouTube channel and for my NFT project, the only person's opinion at the end of the day that is going to matter is me, because I'm the one that has to live it. Now, there's going to be other people I take things from, and it depends. Each person is different. So I think if you've got a partner, it's really important for them to be on board with what you're doing, because they are the closest to living your life. They're living a very similar life, because you're either living in the same house or you've got the same goals, or etc., especially if you've got kids.
Yeah.
But then there's other people in your life that you might want the support from, but maybe you've got to distance yourself. So I'm lucky that my parents are very supportive of what I do, but at the same time, I'm not reliant on them. And same with my partner, they're not business minded. So I don't expect them to sit there and want to talk business 24/7. So that's important that I know I've got their support, but I don't need their daily input.
Yeah.
That's not them. They'll give it to me if I need it, and that's different. If I want support on my YouTube channel or business ideas, I might go to someone like yourself and go, well, I know you're a bit more minded in that area. You're doing similar stuff, and therefore we'll chat. But then it's important to have, the closer you are with someone, the more connection points you need. So something I love, I can chat to you, and we chatted about Star Wars just before we jumped on here. So it's something, we've got other mutual things that helps build that relationship, that maybe then it builds trust. You know that people are liking similar things, so therefore you're more comfortable to talk to them about further things. So it's really important to have a range of different relationships, but I think that is a key one, is that relationship with yourself, and being positive about yourself helps you be a better person in relationships with others. And it's really important that you can then provide, everything I've just talked about is what others provide to me, but then that allows me to provide all of those things back to other people as well.
That's really good. And I think it's important, as you said, knowing yourself, that self-awareness, and, being able to have that relationship with yourself is important. And I'd love to ask you, have you struggled? And I mean, it's probably an ongoing thing, but what about imposter syndrome? Like, because I think that's a big one when it comes to, especially someone in business or content creation. There's that, people are going to like this, or even having your own business, right? We don't have to dive into it too much, but how have you dealt or managed with that?
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Or maybe you haven't.
YouTube. No, I think I have. Like, YouTube was probably the biggest one, that it was like, oh, is anyone really even going to care? Like, am I important enough that people are going to want to know about my things, without at the same time going, oh yeah, everyone should listen to me. So it's that balance of giving yourself the confidence to go, I'm important enough that people want to pay attention to me, want to consume my content. At the same time going, I'm not that important, and therefore don't get caught up in it.
Yeah.
And it's a harsh thing, but I've had to tell people in the past and go, do you really think you're that important that these people care about that minuscule detail about you? You're not. So therefore don't get caught up in it.
Yeah.
Like, we get so caught up in going, oh, like, oh, is my hair sitting right? Or did I pronounce that word properly? No one cares. Like, you're not that important.
Yeah.
Therefore, don't get caught up on that. They want to watch your content for what it is. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting one. And I'm going through that again with my NFT project. Going, will anyone buy this? Will I even have one person buy this? Am I that important? And then I go back and go, well, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, if it flops, I don't care. So I think it's probably a strength of mine that I don't get too caught up in what other people think of me. And YouTube has really helped with that, to go, well, I'm just going to do this. Maybe 5 years ago, that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have had the confidence to do that. So,
and it gets easier as you progress, but you know,
Definitely.
I can relate to this in the last 24 hours. Like my video that I dropped yesterday on my personal channel, you know, I was running late, I was behind, I hadn't done the thumbnail. Now, usually, if anyone's in the YouTube game, you know, thumbnails and titles help, you know, that's the click through. That's what people are going to click through to actually watch the content. And, you know, usually I spend up to 30 minutes building out these, you know, send them to a few people, get some feedback, which one are you clicking? And I didn't do that because I was behind schedule. And so I just kind of grabbed something, put something together. I probably only spent 10 minutes on it max. And that's got my highest click-through rate. It got 15%. I was like, what the heck? Like, you know, the ones before this, I've spent so much time on this, sitting at like 5, 6, 7. And this, you know, didn't even think about it. And I'm just like, stuff it. It's good enough is done, right? And sitting at 15%. And I was like, it just goes to prove how much we overthink things, or like we worry about 100%. The minor details and things like that. So, you know,
you're not the market. The market's going to control what it wants. The audience controls it. You can't control it. I've done plenty of videos where I'm like, oh, this is the best video ever, and then it doesn't go, and you get frustrated.
And then it's the other way
around. And then
you
put something else out, and it's like, and you learn from that. You learn from it, and you adapt. But it is, it's the joys of content creation.
Love it. It's just blows my mind. No, I really appreciate you sharing the stuff about the relationships. I mean, they're super important, right? And the good thing is, like, the more you grow, the more you become self-aware, and you can learn to how to interact with people. And, you know, there's no perfect way of doing this other than, you know, we're all in this same game together. And, you know, as you said at the start, you know, we're people, and we need people to be able to continue to be great people and good people, because we don't have all the answers. The next topic that we were going to touch on was investing, which I know is, you know, very broad and very it's an interesting topic in the last 30 days. And, you know, we've seen the ASX and the, you know, the New York Times, the New York Stock Exchange drop. And, you know, I think, you know, it's dropped a good, I think, anywhere between 6-7% in different places. And, you know, I've lost a lot of money in the first, you know, 30 days of this year, and it's overwhelming. But we don't have to touch on that. But investing for you, how has that been important for you to further your life?
Yeah, it's something that I always was interested in. Obviously, going into a finance field, you had to be interested in investing. And I did a video on my channel 3 or 4 months ago talking about why I didn't start investing. I think it was 23.
Yep.
And I wish I'd done it at 18. But it was that confusion of going, I think that imposter syndrome comes in and go, well, am I like good enough to invest? Like, isn't that just for rich people? Like, do I have the right to invest my money?
Wow.
Like, or should I just be putting it in the savings account because that's the easy option? And what I wish I'd done earlier is you learn so much through investing. And for me, it's really not that much about the money side of it. It's the learning side of it still at my age. You're just wanting to learn about things and learn about projects and stuff like that. And I've had some good investments. I invested in Afterpay early because I like to. I'm not someone I don't like technical analysis. It's too much for me. And I do some broad ETF investing because that's a simple way for me to go. I don't have to think about it. I put it into a broad market thing. That's probably the easiest way. But I have picked some companies that go, oh, I really like the idea of the company. I like the business model. I'm business minded. And that's why I've talked about, when I did talk about my NFT project, I've got business strategy sessions because that's something I do think is one of my strengths, is going, well, what is this business model? Is that going to be successful? How could we tweak that? So to pick a company and go, oh, that's something that I think will work well, that was a really good investment for me.
Yeah.
I've dabbled in crypto. And one of the reasons why I do that is because I'm learning so much about the tax implications of it. So therefore I can help clients with it. So there'll be projects that I know, maybe it's just a small amount that I put in, but it's a way for me to learn about it.
Yeah.
So that's something but I really think investing teaches you a lot about the business world, economics, etc., which is really interesting.
Yeah. Okay. And look, I mean, I love how you kind of answered my next thing, and I wasn't going to, I mean, this isn't advice for anyone that's listening either. what you should invest in and what you shouldn't. But, you mentioned that you do have a broader portfolio in terms of ETFs, and you have dived into some of the more, niche or narrow companies. But, with that, I think with the investing part, you said that you wish you had started at 18, and I know we're going to touch on that later around some of the things that you wish you had done earlier. But, if you had started earlier, is it just a matter of like, you wish you had done the research, or you wish you had just started putting money in earlier?
I think it's a bit of both. And it's earlier is not even probably the right term. It's
Okay.
when you've got an idea, it's like, why don't you dive into it a bit deeper?
Yeah.
So I can go, I wish I'd started earlier and in stocks. So I wish I'd done that at 18. But I suppose I did invest in a range of things because I've now got such a broad thing. But it's when something comes along, I wish I had done more in crypto earlier. I wish I'd done more in NFTs earlier.
Yeah.
So sometimes we come across these things and we're a little bit, and I'd rather double small amounts and learn quicker. And sometimes I just go, I'll do one thing and I just let it sit.
Yeah.
Why not just try a few things and then then you work out what works. So even ETFs, I've only touched in the last 18 months or so. So
Yeah.
I keep saying earlier, but I'm like, well, I'm still missing those opportunities. So I can fix that going forward.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you did mention about broaden. I do have probably quite broad, and some of them are small amounts, but it's just learning. And even if you leave a small amount, you can monitor that industry and learn about it. And for me, that's really important because if I have clients in it, I can connect with them and build that relationship on another level. But so I've got Australian shares, I've got international shares, I've got ETFs, I've got an investment property, I've got crypto, and I've got NFTs. So I do have a broad thing. And I've just got little bits in each that I can go. And then if someone asks me, oh, what do you do to track your rental property? Oh, I personally got one. Here's a spreadsheet I use. What do you do to track your crypto? Oh, I use this software or this software. How do you track your shares? Or, oh, did you see what happened in the market? Yes, I did, because I know I'm monitoring 6 different markets, for instance.
Okay, no, that's good. And I love, I was going to ask about, there's so many different investments other than share markets, right? Investment properties and things like that. But I guess one thing, we've been talking about financials here, right? So what about investing in yourself? Is there anything that you're doing to invest in yourself or have in the past to enable? Because, you could be, whether it's taking courses or reading or something. And I know we're going to touch on content consumption soon, but you personally, is there anything that you've invested in to enable you to grow quicker?
Yeah, I think when I talk about a broad investment basis and small amounts, the reason why it probably has been small amounts is because I've invested in my own business, which has been my investment in myself. So obviously to get to that stage, I had to study, which I did uni courses. I'm still paying that back. I'll be paying that back for a long time. But over the last 2 to 3 years, a lot of my money got poured into, whether it was I had to do a few fix up courses to get a tax agent license, for instance. And then a lot of that investment then going into the business, because to me, that's investing in the longest term asset for me is my business. And that business doesn't necessarily have to be the accounting business. It's probably me. It's a personal brand of me. Hence why I've done the YouTube channel. So I've invested in equipment for the YouTube channel, because to me, that's an investment in myself and in my investment. I think we can get caught up in what returns our investments can get, whether you're chasing a 7% return on the stock market, whether you're chasing 100% return on crypto, or whatever you're trying to do. But for me, the more important thing in the long term is how can I have income? Because at the end of the day, the income is what's going to support me. If I can make 100 grand a year, that's going to be, I have to have a massive portfolio to be able to do that with shares or property. So if I can then have an income that supports me, and the most important thing, that income is derived from something I love doing, that is what I want to invest in. So I'd happily sell all my other investments if there was an opportunity to grow my personal ability to earn an income that I love doing.
No, it's a good mindset, right? And I think sometimes we all, like, we touched on it when we were talking about before, everyone, there's so much hype around it, right? And everyone just wants to get involved with NFTs or Bitcoin or crypto or the next latest trend, even Pokemon and things like that, right? There's all this hype, but actually understanding what's your intent, what's your why, what's your goals. And as you said there, you said that you'd be willing to sell everything and put it into something else if it's going to help you get to what you want to be doing and you're enjoying it and it's making you money. Because that I think is really important to understand, that when you are investing on all accounts, that you have that mindset or that understanding of what is your why, or what's your intent, what's your end game. Because if it is short term, well, then you're gonna play differently to if you're, playing for 10, 20 years or something, and understanding what that looks like. And I think, kind of coming full circle of how I said at the start, just before we got into investing, that, I had a big drop at the start of this year. Like, I was down, kid you not, $60,000. And it was kind of like, whew, I'd had lost a lot before, but to have that dip, it's kind of like you can just feel like this big sink in your gut. But when I zoomed out, I realized, well, I've been doing this for 8 years, but that's nothing compared to what I've grown over the last 8 years in terms of being, having invested monies or invested stocks or whatever. And, now it's starting to crawl back up and we're going back up again. And, and it's that roller coaster, but I think it's so important to understand, because I'm thinking, well, at the end of the day, yeah, I've lost a lot right now, but I'm actually only just as bad as I was 4 months ago. So it's kind of like, it's really nothing, from an 8-year journey, and I'm planning to be in it for another 8, 10, 20 years. So it's like having that mindset really, really changes the game. Okay. So
I had probably a similar experience and again, this is why things are volatile, and yours is over an 8-year period. This is over an 8-month period, but go back to the NFT things. I bought one of the VFriends Gary V NFTs, and it's a long-term hold for me, and I hope to still have it in 10 years time, for instance. But I think I paid, $4,000 for it. And 6 months later, which was probably about 6 months ago, it was probably worth about $95,000. So, which is just an insane growth thing.
Yeah.
Now that is worth probably about 40,000. So again, I'm probably in a similar situation to you where it's like a 60 grand loss. But if I zoom back out and go, oh, if someone said to me your $4,000 investment was worth 40, 12 months later, you jump at the opportunity.
Exactly.
So we forget and we look at oh, where's my investment at versus its all-time high, rather than looking at, well, where's it at versus the all-time low?
Yeah.
That maybe is a better thing to have your mindset. Now, if we could all sell at the highs, we all would. We'd sell at the high and we'd buy at the low. No one can do that. And therefore, why judge yourself on that?
Yeah.
Like if you sat there and judge yourself and go, oh, I lost that money and, oh, what am I going to do? That's a year's worth of weight. Like your mental health, it's just not good for your mental health.
But it's so true, right? It's such an important thing to understand. And it's a pulse check, right? I mean, I know we can chat about this for a very long time, so I'll stop it there. But I think that's a really good piece of advice. Understand what's your lowest, rather than just understanding what's your highest, because then where you're at the moment, is that closer to a higher or are you actually close to a lower? But even if you're close to a low, you're still above your low. So it's like, it's really not that bad. So
and you still got something.
Oh,
if you spend that money on food or something, it would be zero.
Exactly right. So the last point then is content consumption. I'd love to hear, and it's different for everyone. Some people focus their time on, education or, TED Talks or, what they're watching or who their go-to podcast is or who their go-to influence is. And content consumption, we can take it in so many different ways. And I'd love to hear from you of, what are some of the things that you like to go to get that inspiration or to get some, level of influence, or that you just find yourself always listening to help further your life?
Yeah, I could probably break my content consumption down into probably 4 areas.
Okay.
So for motivation or inspiration, I'm a big Gary V fan. I know I probably talked about it on your podcast. I talk about it a lot. It's just someone I resonate with. I love a lot of his theories on things and his reasons why. And at the end of the day, I love that most of his focus is on providing value to people. Trying to give 51-49, giving more in a relationship than what you get back will always put you in the ability where you can feel comfortable with what you do. So that's probably the biggest thing that I try to take in my life, is always give more than you receive. And therefore you can always live and go, well, I gave everything I could. And then you don't become reliant on what other people give you. You become reliant on what you can give out. I think it's all about the more self-control you have on situations, better. So I really like a lot of his content for motivation and for business. He does a lot of in-depth things that are actual real-world advice, which I love. So I love that. Then I try not to mix it up with too many. I don't read a lot of books and don't consume a lot of content in that area from others, because I found something that works for me. So I know that I get a lot of what he says, and I don't need to then consume 6 different other people's opinions on things, because that works for me. I suppose the next area is actual technical business knowledge, and I need to do that. And it's probably an area that I probably need to do more of, because obviously I have to consume stuff to keep up to date with tax laws and stuff like that. That's the boring stuff. It's not the interesting stuff, and it's when it needs to be. So I did a course not long ago, a 4-day course on crypto.
So do you have to do that like on an annual basis or something? Like
I have to do 100 120 hours over 3 years or something. So
Wow.
there's
Okay.
it's about 40 hours. So it almost works out to be about an hour a week of when you're actually working. So I
Jeepers.
did a training course on Zero accounting software yesterday. So
Okay.
you're doing those things through the year. Hopefully this year you'll be able to go to some conferences and stuff that might be a 2 or 3 day event where you can cram some of that in.
Yep.
But yeah, that's something I have to do. And it's probably something I want to do more on in particular areas and go, I really want to know more about these so I can help clients with it do that. So
Yeah.
that's just something I have to do. Quite interestingly, through the day, I consume a lot of comedy content. So
Okay.
I'll have comedy podcasts and stuff running most of the day. These things live in my ears, I'm pretty sure. And it's a way for me I can sit there and work, and I'm someone that can work and listen at the same time.
Okay.
So I love doing that. I hate them when I'm video editing and I can't listen to something else because I
Yeah.
have to listen to myself. But yeah, that's another area that I consume content in because I'm like, it breaks things up for me that it's something light that I find podcasts are good because I can tune in and out. If I'm concentrating on something and I miss a bit, it doesn't really matter as much.
Yep.
I consume music as well while I'm
Yep.
doing stuff. But yeah, I really love comedy podcasts. So that's a
Yeah,
really
okay.
important thing for me. And then obviously you have your consumption outside of work hours. I love watching TV shows. I really love going to the movies lately. That's something that's really big on me that I feel like
Okay.
daily I'm like, oh, I wonder what movies are on. I'll
Yeah.
go to the cinema and I really enjoy that experience. So that's another area I consume content. I think it's really important to have a mix of, that inspirational content. No matter who
Yep.
you are, I think there should be some kind of inspirational content that's good for your mental health. It's
Yep.
just that positive reinforcement. Obviously, whatever you're doing, normally there is some kind of technical knowledge or some kind of content you consume around your work.
Yep.
And then it's important to have those content consumption that is completely irrelevant. You want to have something that is that takeaway.
Yeah. Okay, no, it's good. I mean, you've covered all all elements there. It's really good, and I think it's important to have those different. I guess it's kind of like a Venn diagram, whether it's for fun
Yeah.
or leisure, and the stuff for business, and all that, because it's important. And as you said, everyone each to their own, and everyone's going to be different. Like for me, when I'm running, that's when I'm consuming audiobooks or podcasts or music. But then also when I'm doing script writing or planning, or I put on a different kind of playlist to try and just get into that zone. And through the day when I'm listing and stuff, that's when I might be catching it with other people's content and hearing it, or, there's a stuff that I want to learn and listen about, and you can have it in the background and just consume it. And it's interesting how everyone does it differently. And, like I hated reading books because I just get tired. But then when I realize it's like, I feel like I'm missing out, like, because everyone's like, the best book ever, then it changed my life. And I'm like, oh, here we go again. But then I found a way to listen to it. And then when I started listening to it, I realized I'm like, oh my gosh, I have missed out on so many books for so long. And, but, I think it's really important. And I love the idea how you said about, going out and also, doing those different things outside of just your own, world or whatever. I mean, for me, I haven't really been a big movie buff, but I've been really enjoying playing video games because it's something that kind of it changes everything. You literally have to switch off from business mode or podcast mode and all that, and it's a great way to reset. But of course, now that we're starting to open up, you can start to do more of those activities outside of home. And I did go to the movies the other week. And, it was a great experience. Went out for some dinner. We went to a movie, and it was just great to have that conversation, but, consume something different and share that experience with someone too. So
Yeah,
it's
I
great.
love the sharing of experience. And what I love about the personal content, I suppose, the stuff that's not work related, I love having stuff that I can talk to other people about it.
Yeah.
So if it's a movie, if it's a TV show, or even if it's a podcast, something comedy related, whatever, it's great to be able to share that. And that comes back to everything we talk about relationships, is that's what helps build your relationships, those common interests. So whether it's a conversation with you about Star Wars, or whether it's a conversation with my brother about a comedy podcast, it's that sharing of your content that's so important to maintaining relationships and having common interest points.
It is. It's funny because a lot of the time you don't realize it, but even just reflecting now, and I'm like, I every time before we catch up, I'm always thinking how we actually connected, right? And we stumbled upon each other on YouTube, but like I'm trying to think back, why, what was the thing that stood out, right? And you reflect on that. It's like, because obviously something resonated, and I think that's important because the more we show, not about that you have to show everything of your life, but, being willing to have that different conversation, or, when someone does ask you about, what did you do this weekend, or what, there's always that cliche small talk. Oh, how was your weekend? And everyone says, yeah, it was good. And you don't really say anything, but, I encourage you, if someone asks you, how was your weekend? Like, call their bluff, humor them, and actually tell them, oh, I did this, or I went skateboarding, or because it's going to really change the conversation. All of a sudden you're going to realize, okay, were they actually curiously interested, genuinely interested, or were they just doing it small talk? But also ask other people. Like it's a great way to learn new things. And you might not have realized that someone, was training to be some special athlete, or maybe they compete at, a state or national level, because you've never asked them, right? It's like, and being willing to actually ask and curiously know, I think it's a great way to further your life, right? Because you're going to be consuming, it's not content necessarily, but you're learning so much more of this stuff that you didn't know, and what you don't know, you don't know. So the more you can kind of take it, it's like, oh, curiosity, we thrive off curiosity.
Yeah, there's more to us than what we do for a living. So
surprisingly,
I've had clients that have reached out to me, and just from my YouTube, I have things in my background just over here that is like stuff that's important to me. And I've had clients reach out and go, oh, I knew you were the accountant for me because you love Iron Man and you've read The Barefoot Investor.
Yeah.
Like, so it's straight away, it's a common talking point to go, oh, what did you think of this? Or what did you think of that? So we're all human. We love different things outside of what we do. And there's a good chance that we can connect with people on other levels, whether that's video games, whether it's movies, TV shows, podcasts, books. There's so many different things. And I'm sure most people that you deal with on a day-to-day basis consume content as well. So why not talk about it?
That's it. No, I love it. And look, I want to, we've touched on so much here and really deep. And I know we've already alluded to some of the things that we're going to touch on now, which is, with all these things that you're doing now and, you're enjoying, and, out of those, with hindsight's great because it's a chance for us to reflect back and think, if only we had done that. But then it's a chance to kind of start to do it now, right? So I'd love to hear, and you already touched on it a bit with the finance stuff, but like, what with hindsight, what have you wished that you had started earlier, and why? Because I think it's important for people to realize, and it will be different for everyone, of why you wish you had done it and how important you think it would have been, if you had started, let's say you said the investing is the first one, if you had started, 4 or 5 years earlier, what difference do you think that would have made, and how that could make a difference for someone that's listening?
Yeah. So I think the investing one, we'll start with that. If I'd started 4 or 5 years earlier, I'd love to see, one, the monetary growth of what a portfolio looks like with an extra 5 years. Even if you're putting $5,000 in a year, well, that's another 25 grand you've already invested, let alone the growth of that.
Yeah.
And then you can obviously talk about the lessons you've learned. So, you might have gone, oh, I discovered ETFs much quicker. Therefore, I would have rather put all my money into that, because maybe you wanted to just invest in something where you didn't have to put any thought into it. You just put the same amount into the same ETF every month. So it's that lessons you learn quickly. For me, with investing with NFTs, I've been dabbling in it for a year now. I wish I dabbled in it more in the first 6 months. Maybe I would have. Now it's two sides. Maybe I would have discovered a project that massively ballooned in value and I might have made some money. But at the same time, if I had invested in more small projects, it would have made me starting my own project a hell of a lot easier, because I would have understood more of what worked for people and what didn't.
Yeah.
So it's having multiple reasons why it could have furthered my life by investing earlier, of not just the monetary gain, because most people probably think, oh yeah, people wish they invested earlier so they got richer quicker. It's not that. It's the lessons I would have learned quicker, and therefore being able to apply them earlier.
Yeah. Okay. Which makes sense. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like with anything, right? You put the work in and you're not seeing the result, and you probably don't see it for another 5-10 years. But I think with the investing, if I could recommend to anyone, like most people, when they start, they feel like, oh, what's $50 going to do? Like, they don't see the difference, and maybe they see it go up, a couple of percent, or they've only got a couple of cents on it, maybe $2, $5, and it's like, not really getting it. But it's that consistency over a long period of time. And as you said, if you had put $5,000 a year over 5 years, it's 25,000. But if the return on average is 7 to 10%, that starts to compound so quickly. And usually, I don't want to butcher the quote, so people please do your own research, but I think compounding starts to really pay its big dividends starting from 7 or 8 years. Right. And then from that point, that's when you start to see the momentum or the snowball effect really start to pick up, which is why it is so important that the first years before that 7 to 8 years, that you are putting that consistency in. It doesn't matter if it's $10, $20, or $1,000, or it's like with running or anything, right? That's when things start to really, you can snowball, build up that big foundation, and then you can apply it, or it will start to execute. And it's the same with knowledge or learning and going through a career. Like, when you first go into a job, you're a graduate or you're a newbie, you don't know what you're doing. You got to learn. First couple of years, you're still making mistakes. That's fine. That's expected. But once you start getting closer to that 5 to 7 years, you've narrowed down, you've niched down, you've got a set of skills, and you're less likely to be making those mistakes unless you go start a whole new career again. And that's when you can start to then say, well, you can start to have that authority to demand more, a pay rise, or you're getting to the next level. You're leading a team, you're influencing people, because you can't just go in and start doing all that from day one because you have nothing behind you. You're just literally another speck of sand in a big ocean of people all trying to build themselves. And I think that's a great parallel to it, because you cannot expect that whatever you're investing in, as I said, whether it's yourself or the money, it's going to come over time. And the sooner you can do that, the sooner you can realize that, but understand, and I'm the same. Like, I invested when I was 21. If I had started when I was 18, now I can see the benefits of it, but it's scary, right? And I really encourage people, just start asking questions, see how you can do it. If you can afford $50, that will change your life in 8-10 years if you can do that on a weekly, monthly, or however regular basis. So that's really, really encouraging to hear, man. And then the second one I think you had put was around that you wish you had started earlier is community. And I'm really curious to hear about this one.
Yeah, so I wish I'd started to build a community around myself earlier and backed myself that people would be interested in that, or even if they weren't interested, that I was interested in seeing that journey. So like you said, you reflect on things and you reflect on, where was I at 12 months ago? And imagine if you documented that whole process from the start. And I think that's really cool with what you're doing with the reselling.
Yeah.
Is you've done that from the start. So now in 10 years' time, if you're still doing it, you can go, there's a whole documentation process of where you were from start to finish.
Yeah.
So I think content creation, I wish I'd done earlier, because people love to watch the journey of someone from where they end up. And I'm definitely not there yet, but you can see all the steps I've taken to get there and actually show that. And so many big content creators now, how many times do you go back? And I was only watching someone the other day that has tens of millions of subscribers, and you go back and see their first videos and you go, oh, wow. So building that community, and obviously I'm doing that through multiple channels of the business and the YouTube channel, and now hopefully the NFT project, is building up a community that you can contribute to and be a part of. I think is really important. And the earlier you do that, and doesn't have to be your own community, it may be just contributing and having that confidence to contribute. And it doesn't have to be educational. What about if it's one of your favorite comedians and they have a community and you just want to get involved and you never were brave enough to call into the radio station or contribute something or send them a message? Why not do it? Because I feel like it snowballs. It does. It increases your confidence. It maybe makes you want to go do it again, or maybe you learn that, I don't really want to be a part of that community. But the quicker you do things, the better.
Yeah, it's so true, right? And to be frank for everyone, at the moment, the thing I struggle with is, reaching out to people that are way further ahead of me, right? And this whole podcast is about further your life, right? But, I want to get people on here that are going to be game changers, because they're further along the timeline. But there is that, we talked on it, imposter syndrome. There's the doubt, or there's the things of thinking, they won't have the time for me or won't have the time for this, and really challenging myself to do it. Because one, as you said, if you take that step, if you get rejected, you're going to get over it quicker, which means you're going to go back for more and keep pushing or find someone else. And plus, if you send out 10 and you get 5 people come back, it's like, well, you got 50% that have said yes and you're 5 up. It's like, and if I had never sent anything, well, then I'm 10 down. So, that context, or that, I guess, that perception changes things really quickly. And the best thing you can do is continue to try, right? Because if we're stuck in our heads and not willing to give things a go, or reach out, or build a community, or have a conversation, or, as you said, you're growing your Twitter this year, you're growing your Discord. You've never dabbled in that area, but now you're growing in it. I think you've got 103 or 4 people in Discord now, which, it was probably only 4 months ago, probably even less than that, you had 0. And you've had to learn so much, and you're getting, in a whole new space. And it's the same for Twitter, building new ways of connecting. And because everyone connects differently in these different areas of social media, and people hate Facebook, some people love Twitter, vice versa, right? And I think it's important that if you're not willing to commit to something for a long period of time, then you can't expect to get results, right? Because it kind of comes back to the investing one. It's exactly the same community, because you're investing into people, you're investing into, whether it's a small community or big community, what you put in is what you're going to get out of it. And there's some talking to myself here as well. So I really encourage you sharing that, because it's always great to hear perspective from other people in all the different areas. Before we wrap up, two things that I want to, if you, anything that you kind of want to leave with the audience before we finish up.
Yeah, the biggest thing, and I touched on, I think I finished up the last one with, is just starting things.
Yep.
Like, I think it's the easiest way to further your life in general,
Yep.
is to start things. Because the quicker you start things, the quicker you can decide whether you continue or you stop.
Yeah.
So whether it's exercise, whether it's eating healthy, whether it's building relationships, whether it's business related, whether it's content related, the quicker you start on something, the quicker you can't build the snowball can't happen until you start building the snowball.
Yeah.
You have to start somewhere.
It's
and
simple,
by just
really.
starting something, it just builds so many of these things cross over into other areas of your life that you don't realize, that maybe a positive eating attitude and eating healthy may improve your ability to exercise. Maybe it improves your relationships, or maybe it increases your confidence that you start a business. Like, you never know where that crossover effect will happen, and you don't know it until you try something.
Love it. It's so good. And where's the best? I mean, I know I've asked you this before, but now where is the best place to come over, follow you, and find out all the stuff and to follow the journey?
Yeah, so obviously I've still got the YouTube channel. I'm closing in on 2,000 subscribers. So I think when we first spoke, I was just under 1,000.
Yeah, you were.
So that's been cool. The biggest place at the moment for me is honestly the Discord, because it surprised me that how many people are contributing in there and answering each other's questions.
Yeah.
And some of the questions people are asking, and they're about a range of things. It's tax related, it's crypto related, it's NFT related, it's business related, personal finance related. And suddenly people are going in asking questions, and I'm like, they're challenging me. Yeah. So they're challenging each other, and it's been a really cool start to a community of going, oh, wow, like this person's either invested in this, or this person's got a question about running a business, and other people are like, oh, well, I did this. And I think that's really cool. The fact that once you can build a community that then interacts with each other is honestly the greatest achievement I've ever had when it comes to business. It's like, oh, wow, people are interested enough to help other people in my community. So I'd love to see people join that. Awesome. Obviously, I've got the NFT project coming up, but for me, I'd rather provide value to people first, and then they buy into that. I'm not just saying I'd love for people to go and buy the NFTs, but I want them to feel like they're going to get value out of that first.
And the way Discord works is, I mean, so we've got the link in the description and details below, but it's kind of like an invite only kind of thing. Like, you can't just search up for it, can you? Like, is that correct?
Yeah, I think there's the ability that you, in some areas, and can promote, but the general thing is you get an invite link.
Yeah. So
the way I'd liken it to those that maybe have been around the internet for a bit longer, it's almost like forums back in the day, where you'd have a community in a forum, and that's where people are going.
That's true.
And the Discord allows you to have, you've got different channels in different areas, and people just interact, and people have got them. I've seen people have it for their friends group. Like, it's an interesting, and it's a learning experience, definitely. But a really cool area to interact on a more personal basis than what I can through YouTube.
Awesome. I love it, man. I'm so excited. Like, I appreciate you coming on, and we've had some great conversations, deep conversations, and there's a lot to take in and digest from this one. And I encourage everyone that's listening is, if there was something here that we did speak about today, that, go join Ethan's Discord and jump in there. I'm in there myself, and ask him some questions. If you want to know a bit more, you can reach him there. Otherwise, all his other socials are down in the details below, and you connect on Twitter or Instagram, YouTube, all those great places, right? And I've really appreciated growing in the last year with Ethan, because, as I said before, we have been connecting almost on a daily basis of recent, and it's really great to be able to see how far he's progressed. And I think that's the other reason having him come back is so important for you guys to see that what he's achieved in a year, and that change in growth, and where he's going now. And the good thing is that this is possible for anyone that else is listening as well. So really, it's all about furthering your lifestyle, right? So I really appreciate you being here, Ethan. Yeah, mate, it's been a blast.
No, thank you very much. I love coming on here, and I'd come on here all the time. I love it, and really can't wait to see what else you've got planned for the podcast in 2022, because it definitely helps me further my lifestyle listening to some of these great guests you've got on. So I'm really excited for the future for not only myself, but for yourself as well.
Thanks so much, mate. Well, you have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon, man.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers. So there you go. What an awesome episode. And I think there's some really big takeaways here. But the number one here for me is understanding everyone else's journey does not necessarily mean it's going to be the same for you. But I think it's important that we hear from other people, hear how their journey has, come to pass so far, and see what we can take from their lessons, take from their mistakes, take from their journey, and see how we can use that at our own advantage. I did this episode with the intent so you can hear his perspective on what he's been doing to further his life, whether that's exercising, investing, his relationships, and so on. But how you do it will be different, but there might be something here that you've been able to take away. I would really encourage you to see what you can apply from this episode, from this conversation, and I would love to hear from you. You can connect with us via Instagram, that's at Further Your Lifestyle, or via Twitter at Further Your Life, or you can drop us an email at hello@furtheryourlifestyle.com, and I would love to continue that conversation with you. If you've got a question or something that has resonated with you, let me know. Let's continue the conversation. And secondly, the other thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is go get involved in Ethan's community. He's doing an amazing NFT project. There's some really exciting things to come there. But he's just a great guy and he's got some really good knowledge and understanding. I think it would be a great opportunity for you to go dive in to his community and see what you can learn from him. I've learned a lot from Ethan already. We're almost talking on a daily basis at this point, and it's been great to be able to see his journey. Of course, I would also love to encourage you to, if this episode resonated with you, or maybe another episode has, or you think it might help someone else, if you could please share it with someone else, if you could share it with them, or maybe just share it in your own social feed. That would mean the world to me. I have a goal to grow this podcast this year, and the best way I can do that is with you. And you listening helps me big time. But if I can have that little extra support, we can get this podcast in front of a lot more people. And I think we can further the lives of others so much more. Appreciate you being here. Of course, as I said, if you've got any questions, comments, do let me know. Otherwise, you have a wonderful day. Cheers. Now, if you didn't know, we do have the podcast merch, and this is with a key focus of enamel pins. Now, if you haven't checked these out, make sure you do, because the intent of these are really just to be a small token and a reminder for you to charge on, to push on, and to further your lifestyle. Whether it is a gift for someone else to encourage them, or maybe to inspire them, or maybe it's a way to motivate yourself, or you can simply just make a purchase to simply support the podcast, which would be greatly appreciated. We do also have some sweaters and some long tees, so make sure you check it out. Link in the description and in the show notes. Really do appreciate it. Cheers.